So hi everybody, I've missed you all very much. Thank you so much for your patience, but now we're bringing you some Sivasana adjustments. This sort of series of Sivasana adjustments, you probably wouldn't do the whole full thing unless you were in maybe a private class setting. But the idea is that I'll show you a little thing that you can do sort of with each body part working from the feet up towards the head. And then you have some tips and tricks to kind of choose from to kind of decide what's appropriate for each individual student that you might deal with. So I am assisted today by my lovely mother who is playing dead in Sivasana, and I hope it's helpful. So we'll go ahead and start down by the feet. In general, just like any other adjustment that we've done, I want to just take a moment to sort of take in my student, see how they're lying on the floor, see that they're breathing already nice and smooth and easy. And I kind of have an idea of where I want to target this student specifically, but we're going to do the whole thing from the feet up. So starting down at the feet, I'm going to bend from my knees, of course, not from my back, yeah? Nice low squat, and I'm going to hook my hands underneath her ankles and then stand up just a little bit. I have a slight pull or traction through her legs, and then I'm just shifting my weight side to side in my legs. Kind of think like an elephant trunk almost. So just really getting a nice sense of length through her legs, trying to get her legs to go heavy. Sometimes you pick someone's legs up and they're really gripping and holding, and she's doing a really nice job of already letting her legs go to mush. Before I put her legs down again, I just want one more time to kind of lengthen everything out, and then gently placing her feet down into the floor. Yeah. Then I want to get myself somewhere comfortable. You never want, particularly in Savasana adjustments, to be straining or contorting your body. First of all, for your own safety, but also because your student will be able to feel that. So I'm getting myself situated really nicely, and I'm just starting down at her feet. I'm taking my thumbs right up to the soles of her feet, starting with the heels, and kind of just think of like spreading outwards. Like my thumb is running on the bottom and out to the side, on the bottom and out to the side. And then my fingers are on the top of her foot, just kind of spreading out all those tired bones. Yeah. And then I get to each toe and I give it just a little tug. And sometimes you might get a little pop or a crack, and that's okay. Oh, we got one. And then I usually stop by just kind of running my thumb down through their inner arch and towards the big toe, and that feels nice. And then the same thing on the other side. My thumbs are at the bottom of her feet. And you know, we've talked before about how I never really touch people's feet. And this is sort of one of those times where you have to know the rule in order to break it, right? This is a very different kind of adjustment. It's very much a deepening and relaxing pose. So I might choose this particular adjustment on the feet with a private client or someone who I really know, like my mom. Or maybe you have a client who's a runner. This is a great one for them, working deep into the feet. Okay, so now I'm leaving these feet behind, and I kind of give them a little goodbye. And I'm getting myself up, and I'm going to work up towards her pelvis. So my hands here are going to find the front of her hip bones, and that might take a little bit of practice for you at first, right? You don't want to be up high at their waist and their soft belly line, and you don't want to be all the way down on their thighs. Really nice on that flat part of their pelvis, and my heels of the palms are kind of lined up there. Notice once again, I'm bending from my legs. I'm going to feel for her inhale. There it is. And then as she exhales, I'm really pressing kind of down into the floor with just the tiniest little lift up of the pelvis, right? Most people, as they lay on their back, there's just the tiniest little forward tilt of their pelvis. So I'm trying to flatten her pelvis into the floor, and then I'm pressing straight down, and you can kind of use a good amount of force there. It feels really nice. And I'm going to wait for her inhale to let my hands move away. Good. So now coming over to the arms, again, I'm getting myself in a place that's comfortable so I'm not struggling or straining. I'm gonna pick her hand up off the floor, the elbow is bent, and then holding at the wrist, I just give it a little jiggle. Make sure she's really let go. It's a nice dead arm and she's doing a wonderful job of that. Yeah, make sure you're giving me that arm. And then as I lay her arm down to the floor, similar to what I did at the feet, but I'm starting from kind of the inner elbow with my thumbs. I'm working them out and away, out and away. Just getting all of those nice forearm muscles. And there'll be a point at which the fingers kind of naturally curl. And that doesn't mean that they're not relaxed. It's just because of the pressure you're placing on their tendons. When I get up to the hand, I take a moment to kind of spread the thumb and pinky finger nice and wide apart. And then I can interlace my fingers through hers. Pull that wrist back gently, right? Don't want to force anything. And then maybe one more time. Open that palm up nice and wide. And then I want to be nice about laying her hand back down onto the floor. Same thing, I would move myself to the other side of her body. I don't want to reach across her body to go into the other side. Picking her hand up from the wrist. Just a little shake. Are you letting go? Is this arm relaxed? And then laying it back down so I can run my thumbs from her inner elbow all the way down to the wrist. Those fingers just naturally curl perfectly fine. I'm going to spread the pinky finger and thumb apart. Interlace my fingers through her hand. Draw that wrist gently back. You can go a little side to side. And then one more nice big opening there. And place it down with care. Good. So now I'm moving myself up towards her head and shoulders. Once again, I'm getting myself settled. I'm not off balance. I'm not crouching or balancing on my tippy toes or anything like that. I'm going to take my thumbs and place my thumbs right on top of her collarbones. And really take a moment to make sure, again, that you're being accurate about where you're placing those hands. It's a little higher than most people think. I think sometimes most students are down here, like on the rib cage, but you really want to see that little dip of her throat, and my thumbs go on either side. Yeah. And I'm watching for her breath, and I feel the inhale. And then on her exhale, I'm just pushing a little down, but at the same time pulling apart. So it's like I'm trying to simultaneously press her collarbones away and move them wider away from each other. And you see all of that space that opens in her chest. Again, just be aware of your hands and fingers. If you have larger hands like me, you want to make sure those fingertips are really up so you're not grabbing anything you shouldn't be. Those of you who have smaller hands, that won't be as much of a problem. From here, I take my hands, they're going now onto the tops of her shoulders. Again, waiting for her breath, she inhales. And on the exhale, I'm pushing her shoulders down away from her ears, and then at the same time down towards the floor. So it's a dual motion. I'm lengthening away from her ears, and I'm pressing shoulders into the mat. And I'm going to put a little extra pressure on her right shoulder because it's slightly higher than the left. And you can even hold that for a few breaths. I'm removing my hands gradually so I'm not surprising her. Maybe the shoulders will stay. And then I'm going to take my hands underneath her head. And I'm just going to take a moment to really get her head into my hands and kind of appreciate this moment that I'm holding on to someone's head. And as a student, you know, we very rarely give over our head to someone else. And as a teacher, just appreciate what it's like to hold someone's head for a moment. And just take in all the beauty and wonderfulness that is your student. Yeah. And then I'm going to let my hands slip right at the base of her skull. So you can sort of feel the curve of the neck right at the place where it meets the skull. And just very gently, I'm lengthening her skull up off of her neck. It's almost so slight that you can't even see it, but your student certainly feels it. Just kind of lengthening out her neck, relieving some pressure, and she loves this one. And then as I put her head back down again, right, I want to be respectful about that. So I'm taking my pressure off gradually. I'm lowering her head onto the floor gradually. Nice. From here, I'm going to take my two thumbs and they meet right at that third eye, so between the eyebrows. And I like to put just a little pressure right down in there. And then I'm going to run my thumbs along her eyebrows and just spread all of that tension away. My thumbs find her temples and I spin them a little forward. And I spin them a little bit back. And then maybe one last time I just run my fingers along their scalp. And then for our little last breath here in Savasana, I take one finger right back to that third eye space, and then one finger right below those collarbones. So I'm connecting head to heart. And I watch her long inhale. And as she exhales, I remove my fingertips. And she looks wonderful and relaxed. And that's our Savasana adjustments. Thanks so much for your patience and waiting for that video. And feel free to email me with any questions you have. Good luck, guys.